Sirius Black, devoted friend, animagus, marauder, member of the Order of the Phoenix, accused mass murderer, first person to break out of Azkaban. Not really much of a planner.
Not a great plan.
So when we look at what happened to the Potters and Sirius's own involvement for it, we kind of know what the plan was. It was to bluff Peter as the secret keeper. And of course this ends up not working. Even as smart as James, Lily, and Sirius are, they just incorrectly trust Peter with this information, and it blows up in their faces as it ends in James and Lily being dead, Sirius being in Azkaban, and Harry being raised by the Dursleys.
Another happy landing.
But even then, I think there's still questions on how they can pull off this bluff just because of the nature of the Fidelius charm and why they even felt the need to bluff that Peter was the secret keeper in the first place. And even after all this, what is Sirius thinking when he realizes that Peter betrayed them? Or when he realizes Peter is still alive 12 years later? Just to try to dive into his character motivation, see what he's thinking, and see if we can come up with something close to a plan. So let's start by bringing ourselves back to 1979. Disco is dying, Kramer vs. Kramer is the highest grossing movie, and the prophecy of the one with the power to defeat the Dark Lord has just been made as the UK's wizarding world is at war. And I bring this up because this is a time where trust is fleeting, and not just in the wider wizarding world, I mean with James and Lily also, because at their wedding they only have James's parents and Sirius there. And Sirius is even less trusting at this time. He believes there's a spy in the Order of the Phoenix, which, of course, he's right, but it goes beyond just kind of thinking like, oh, hey, we have our spies in Voldemort's ranks, he's going to have his spies here. No, he thinks one of his oldest friends is Voldemort's spy. He believes that Lupin is going to sell them out. And of course, I don't think James would believe this, but at the same time, Sirius is his best friend, and there is an argument you could make for why Lupin would want to work for the other side, because werewolves are treated just terribly by their society. Even when they win temporarily, he's still unable to get a job, so in Sirius's mind it can make sense to say, hey, Voldemort's promising him all these things, and it's only logical for him to want him, even though they both loved Lupin enough to become animaguses for him, and it feels kind of wrong to say, oh, Sirius thinks this only because Lupin is a werewolf, but at the same time, he can also sometimes be ignorant about other magical creatures. Keep muttering and I will be a murderer, said Sirius irritably as he slammed the door shut on the elf. And I'm not saying that Sirius hates all house elves. I know it's just creature because of the connection to his family, but at the same time, he still dismisses him as a threat. He just says, oh, house elves can't leave the house. Creature isn't a problem. Even when Harry is saying, no, I've seen a house elf do this. Dobby was doing this to the Malfoys. He just had to punish himself. And because it's Harry, Sirius is willing to at least consider it, but he still kind of shrugs him off. Sirius looked slightly disconcerted for a moment, then said, I'll look for him later. I expect I'll find him upstairs crying his eyes out over my mother's old bloomers or something. Of course he might have crawled into the airing cupboard and died, but I mustn't get my hopes up. All of this to say, I think that Sirius is worried Lupin is the spy for a legitimate reason, but part of that is based off of fear and ignorance, and it's not the idea that, oh, all werewolves are evil, so Lupin must be wanting to sell us out. No, it's because Sirius is a pureblood, James is a pureblood, Peter is at least a half-blood. I know his mother is a witch, but Lupin is a werewolf. He doesn't fit into our society, and so many people treat him like crap, so if Voldemort is promising him a better life, he could want to take that opportunity, even if it means selling out his friends. So that's where Sirius's head is at when James and Lily approach him with the idea of him being their secret keeper. And I'm sure that he said, yes, of course I'll do that, and I'll never give you guys up. I will die before I give you up, and I believe him that Sirius would gladly die rather than give up his friends, but something we also have to consider is that James is a very social person. He's going to want visitors to come. If he's trapped in this house all the time, it's going to make him something.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
And because James wants company, Sirius will have to tell their location to some people, whether it's Peter or Lupin, Hagrid, Dumbledore, whoever. And then, because the Potters are known to be protected by the Fidelius charm, they would then go after Sirius, who wouldn't give them up, but would be killed, and then all those people he told would be the secret keepers. It just, to protect the Potters better, it's better to only have one secret keeper, so that's why he thinks, hey, let's have it be Peter, because at this point, for, as much of a rat as he becomes, heck, even his Animagus is a rat, Peter has been nothing but loyal to James and Sirius and Lupin just in exchange for their protection. And these next couple points are more so about the Fidelius charm itself, which if you want a full analysis for that, click on the card up here, but for this bluff to work, people need to know that the Potters are being protected by the Fidelius charm, which, yeah, given that Fudge is willing to tell it to a bartender, yeah, people know. And even more importantly, for Hagrid to believe that Sirius betrayed the Potters, at some point Sirius had to be the secret keeper and be the one to tell Hagrid this, and we obviously know that both of them know how to get to the Potter's place in Godric's Hollow, because they're both able to find it right after James and Lily are killed by Voldemort. So I think to sum up the plan for Godric's Hollow, I think that James, Lily, and Sirius all agree to have Sirius be the initial Secret Keeper and tell Hagrid, who can then report to Dumbledore, along with anybody else they may want to have visit James so that he doesn't get too stir-crazy, before then all agreeing to remove the secret from Sirius's soul and transfer it to Peter, making him the Secret Keeper. But the plan fails because Peter was the spy and immediately sells out the Potters to Voldemort. So we've got an impulsive Sirius who is grieving the loss of his best friend, heck, he even loves him like a brother, really, and he is believed to be the Secret Keeper, and people are going to believe that he is the one who sold out the Potters. And he has no way to prove that he wasn't the Secret Keeper either, because the nature of the Fidelius charm is that the Secret Keeper has to give the information willingly. It's not going to matter if you use Veritaserum, Legilimency, the Imperius Curse, heck, even Crucio. Unless you are giving it up willingly, you aren't finding out this secret. So because of that, there's no reason to believe Sirius if he was saying, oh, actually, I wasn't the Secret Keeper, because Voldemort has just fallen, and everybody is just going to think, oh, he's just trying to get back on our side because his plan failed. So in this grief-stricken, angry state of mind, he thinks he has no way to prove himself and is going to be spending the rest of his life in Azkaban, so if that's what is going to happen to him, he might as well kill the person who's responsible for sending him there. In for a penny, in for a pound.
Tell them whatever you like, but make it quick, Remus. I want to commit the murder I was imprisoned for.
It's not smart, but Sirius is a very emotional character, and even after 12 years in Azkaban, he sees Peter is still alive and says, oh my god, he's still alive, I need to go kill him, and manages to escape because he held on to his mind because he knew he was innocent, and that's definitely not a happy thought. So even when he does break out, though, he's still thinking, I can't prove my innocence. I am going to kill Peter, though. So thought doesn't even occur to him until Harry believes that he's innocent and takes him at his word and says, hey, let's just capture Peter, bring him in alive. We can't prove that you're innocent without him. But he fails here too because of all the anger and grief that's just poisoning him. I mean, of course in a straight fight, Sirius would wipe the floor with Peter, but because of everything that's happened, Peter is able to get the upper hand, catch him off guard, and then escape while being able to frame him for killing Peter and 12 other Muggles. And maybe he's hit with a tickling spell, maybe he just breaks down because he can't believe how much Peter got the better of him, but Sirius is just laughing as his life is falling apart and is sent to Azkaban without a trial. And he spends the next 12 years of his life in Azkaban only holding on to his sanity because he knows he's innocent, but he doesn't try to escape, at least not until he sees Peter is still alive because Fudge gives him a daily profit. It's kind of weird that he never really thinks to escape, but it's almost like he thinks he deserves this because he should have been this Potter Secret Keeper. He shouldn't have convinced them to have it be Peter. He blames himself. We know he does because he says it in Prisoner of Azkaban. And then, because of this, he then sees Peter is still alive, but he doesn't believe he can prove his innocence. So he's like, Peter's alive, I need to break out of Azkaban and kill him so that I can protect Harry. But before he goes to attack Peter, he stops in Little Whinging first to see Harry, and this always kind of felt a little weird to me, because it's not like James and Lily were in contact with Vernon and Petunia, and even more so, I can't imagine Lily being okay with Sirius knowing the address when most likely he's just going to go there to mess with them. But where else could he have gotten the information? I mean, the only other place that really makes sense is if he somehow stole that information from the Ministry. Which then makes you wonder, if he can get this information, then why does he think that his best chance to get Peter is when he's at Hogwarts, you know? If he can find out where Harry is living, surely he can find out where the Burrow is.
And don't call me Shirley.
And yes, I think it's fair to say that he would be able to figure out where the Burrow is, but there are some problems with attacking Peter there. I mean, yes, the Weasleys are there, and that could be a problem for Sirius, but more importantly, Peter is much more familiar with the Burrow and Ottery St. Catchpole than Sirius is. Peter's got the advantage here. At least at Hogwarts, they're on even ground. And while Peter is a pretty pathetic person, he is actually a pretty skilled wizard. He's a little underrated there, even by himself, and nobody knows this better than Sirius. It actually says a lot about how much he thinks of Peter, that he thinks he has a better chance of killing him when Dumbledore is in the area, rather than attacking him where he's been living the last 12 years. Which, considering how little Voldemort thinks of Wormtail, really just again shows just how dumb he was for siding with him. All of this is for nothing, though, because once again his plans fail and Peter escapes, but this is almost kind of where it fails in his favor, because Harry believes him and wants to have him as a godfather. Throw in Dumbledore being an ally now rather than an adversary, and Sirius really gets to hope for the first time since James was killed. And with that hope comes a shift in his objectives. His only goal isn't killing Peter now. His main goal is to protect Harry. And with that, he goes on the run. He'll be away for a time until he's needed. And he'll go somewhere tropical.
We'll be sitting on a beach, earning 20%.
But it's not a very long vacation, because he gets the letter from Harry about his dreams, and he immediately drops everything to go back to the UK so that he can protect Harry, as he's living off rats and whatever food Harry can manage to send him. And from this point to the rest of his life, everything he does is to protect Harry, you know, whether he's trying to get him through the Triwizard Tournament or getting him to stay at Hogwarts. And then Voldemort comes back and he's working for the Order of the Phoenix. Things are a little more normal for him as he's listening to Dumbledore, but the second Harry needs him, he's going to protect him. And, it's easier to be focusing on this rather than having to grieve for the loss of his best friend.
Nice one, James!
And beyond that, he also has to accept that everyone he knew and cared about believed that he was responsible for his best friend's death, and then went on to kill 13 more people. That's why he cares about Harry so much, because Harry has never treated him like he was a mass murderer, never believed that he was capable of that, and it's why he's so moody all the time at Grimmauld Place during the Order of the Phoenix book. It's why he wants all these people around, because he doesn't have to deal with the darker thoughts, but then the people that he's around believed the worst of him, And then when you throw in the fact that he's having to live in his childhood home, the home that he hated, and where the family that hated him lived, it makes sense that he's always having these moody outbursts where he doesn't want to be around people, because it's hard to deal with something like that. And it's because of that love for Harry, and that Harry represents hope to him, that he's not going to hesitate in going after him when Harry breaks into the Ministry. He's going to protect him no matter the cost. He doesn't care what the Order wants. He doesn't care what Dumbledore is going to order him to do. He is going to protect Harry no matter what. And I think that that's kind of just the perfect end for his character, is to go there to protect Harry and unfortunately die while doing it. I think Harry grieves, but after a while I think he realizes that, yeah, everybody's right. That is how Sirius would have wanted to go, and if I had to sum him up with one quote, it wouldn't come from the Harry Potter series, actually. It would come from Survivor, when Tom Westman says, "Tomorrow we'll make our apologies. Tonight we make our move. And that is what I think Sirius Black's plans were from 1979 till his death in the Order of the Phoenix. How's that for a slice of fried gold? Let me know down in the comments what you think of Sirius Black as a planner. Personally, I'd say he falls well short of Dumbledore, but is still a better planner than Voldemort. But that's all I got for you guys today, so if you enjoyed, please drop a like, subscribe if you want more like this, and I'll see you next time on STV.